أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب يسر ولا تعسر، رب تمم بالخير. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله، عدد ما في علم الله، صلاة وسلاما دائمين بدوام ملك الله، وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما، تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be blessed with the beloved words of the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And in continuing inshallah with Mukhtar al-Hadith, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصل عليه. He says the miserly person, the one who is tied, is the one who I mentioned in his presence, but he doesn't send salah upon me. فَلَمْ يُصَلِّ عَلَيْهِ. حديث صحيح رواه الإمام أحمد. To different people, miserliness can take different definitions. For many, it's the one that doesn't spend their wealth and their money on those who deserve to be spent on. Is a person who's seen to be lacking generosity with regard to their hand. And so this, in most people's standards, is considered the bakhil, or the miserly one. But in the standards of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is a transaction that occurs with regard to a person's nearness to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning you draw to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you draw nearer to him through your abundant salawat and salam upon him. As-salatu min Allah rahmah, wa min al-malaika maghfirah, wa min bani Adam, min al-ins, from human beings, du'a wa tadarru'. Salah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is rahmah, is compassion and mercy. So when we say, Oh Allah, Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Oh Allah, send salah and salam, the ulama say that this salah and salam of Allah upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is rahmah, but not any type of rahmah. When a person passes away, Muslim dies, we say rahmatullahi alayhi, rahimahullah, may Allah have rahmah upon him. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam was on this earth and after he left this earth, we continue to ask Allah to send salah upon him. That salah is rahmah, but it's a different type of rahmah. It's a rahmah that is befitting of his stature and his station. The ulama say, هي رحمة مقرونة بالتعظيم. It's a rahmah, however, it's a rahmah that is attached to it, ta'zim, reverence and respect. To who? To Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Unlike any other rahmah. So Allah Ta'ala is sending rahmah upon who? His own rahmah. Because He says that He is Ar-Ra'uf Ar-Rahim. He is Ra'uf Ar-Rahim, He is compassionate, He is merciful. And He says regarding Himself, إِنَّمَا أَنَا رَحْمَةٌ مُهْدَةٌ. He says, I am just a mercy that was given to you as a gift. So this is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ar-Rahman, Allah, is sending rahmah upon His rahmah, and His Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then all of us can be people who embody rahmah by also asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send that salah upon Him. So the bakhil, al-bakhil man dhukirtu indahu. Therefore, any mu'min, any believer, in order to test whether there is some type of iman, there must be mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his gathering. If your day and night pass, and the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in any one of his forms, whether by his title, by his label, by his name, any one of his names, there are over 200 names Imam al-Juzuli mentions in his Tala'im al-Khayrat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If your day and night passes and his name isn't mentioned, then you're even worse than a bakhil. You're worse than a miserly person. Because you're not granting yourself the opportunity to draw nearer to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and to show your generosity. So therefore, one of the minimum signs of Iman is that there must be continuous mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in our lives. The jurists, the fuqaha, when they come to the chapter of buying and selling in Sharia, they say that if a person offers or if a person states their offer, what's called their ijab, meaning he says, بِعْتُكَ هَذِهِ السَّيَّارَةِ بِمِئَةِ أَلْفٍ. I sell you this car, for instance, and he points to a particular car for 100,000. And then the one that accepts the offer, meaning the purchaser, the customer, if he were to say, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, qabiltu, I accept, the fuqaha say that even though that there was a space of time in between the offer, which was, I sell you this car for 100,000, and the acceptance, which was saying, qabiltu in Arabic, I accept, or consider it sold, even though there was that gap in his praising Allah and sending salah and salam upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Imam al-Rafi'i says, one of the shuyukh of the Shafi'i madhab, he says, هذا لا يضر. He says this does not invalidate the contract, the verbal contract of offer and acceptance. So the tujjar, the merchants and the business people, whenever they used to sell, buy, they used to ensure that the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was also mentioned. I ask myself and I ask my fellow Muslims nowadays, in our purchase transactions, in our buying and our selling, how much is the mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam there? Or is it just a mention of the price and negotiating and bargaining and ensuring that we can get it in good installments and interest-free and delivered to free delivery and warranty and guarantee, lifetime and so on and so forth? What about the barakah of the mention of the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And that's where the barakah is. Any transaction in which the name of Allah and the name of His Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam are mentioned, then these become mubarak transactions. So first thing is that there must be mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And how do you ensure that his name is mentioned? You ensure that his name is mentioned by continuously sending salat upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are three types of adhkar which a Muslim should never leave. These should be something that you and I continue to adhere to on a daily basis. The first is kalimat la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. The second is as-salatu ala rasulillah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. And the third, al-istighfar. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. Rabb ighfirli wa tub alayh. Any form of istighfar. So the first is announcing your faith and your belief in Allah, and denouncing your being attracted or diverted to anything other than Allah. Your second is proclaiming to yourself and the world who your guide and role model is, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the third is your acknowledging that you're faulty and you're imperfect. And Allah Ta'ala is the only one that is perfect. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught you 70 times a day at least to say istighfar and seek Allah Ta'ala's forgiveness. So with those three adhkar, La ilaha illallah continuously on our tongues. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Or any other type of form of salah on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as istighfar and seeking Allah Ta'ala's forgiveness, then it's as though we have our bases covered. And when we have our bases covered, we've mentioned Allah, we've mentioned His Habib, and we've also acknowledged our being lacking in fulfilling that covenant of Allah and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the first way we make mention of Rasulullah is to literally make mention of him on our tongue. The second is whenever a situation or an event comes up in our lives, to think for a moment, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in my position, what would he say? How would he behave? What would he do? How many of us, I don't want to put our hands up, otherwise I'll be the first one to put my hand up. How many of us have done something or said something in a particular situation to someone else where afterwards, immediately afterwards, we regret. Immediately afterwards we regret, but many a time we refuse to acknowledge that nadam, that remorse, that regret. Why? Because, simply speaking, we're too proud. We have kibr. And this usually occurs between husband and wife. Neither one wants to acknowledge that they've done wrong. Or between really arrogant children and mum and dad. Little daughter or little boy, little Muhammad or little Zainab doesn't want to acknowledge that they've done wrong, or they've spoken to their parents with disrespect. And also, so they will continue, adamant in their ways. One of the signs of Qiyamah, and تَلِدَ الْأَمَةُ رَبَّتَهَا, that the slave woman will give birth to her mistress. No more akhlaq, no more obedience. Gone. عُقُوقُ الْوَالِدَيْنِ, disobedience to parents, out the window. The good old culture of Bart Simpson and Homer Simpson, where no one respects anyone else. So, with regard to what we respond or how we respond in these situations, many a times we've regretted the way we responded. So, before we respond in words or in action, we'll have remote controls. We used to have, in the old days, remote controls for your VCR. They still do, and there's DVDs and other things, and Blu-ray and Stingray DVD players. You press pause. If you want to stop the movie, just for a moment, you press pause. Anytime, you can press pause again or play, or continue playing. And so therefore, what we're required to do in our lives is to be more frequent in our pressing pause button, rather than having an autoresponder. Like sometimes you send an email to someone, and they reply right back. Oh, hi, thank you for contacting me. I'm on holidays in Honolulu for 3 weeks. I can't check my email. Please email Brian. And they give us the email address. Autoresponder, right? Absolutely no interference by human beings. We don't want to be autoresponders. We want to be people who think about our response beforehand. But we're coming to a society where if you start to think before you respond, then you're considered slow. You're considered backward. Why? Because if you put any search term, if it takes any less than 2.5 milliseconds for the web page to come up, you're on the phone to your support service for the highest speed saying, what's going on, my internet's gone slow. This is what we're used to. But back in the old days, you'd be sitting there, remember Commodore 64? Just to load up somebody called Summer Games, you'd be sitting there half an hour for the tape deck to load. That's how it was in the olden days. But we've become accustomed to this ajala, this rapidness from shaitan. Al-ajalatu min ash-shaytan. It's from shaitan. If it's a response that comes without thinking the consequences through. So we need to think regarding the consequences. And the fuqaha, our Islamic jurists, the ulama, when they give fatwa, they consider something called, what's called in Arabic, al-ma'alat. Al-ma'alat are the consequences of this particular opinion, this particular verdict, this fatwa. And so that's where they have to actually take into account the culture, the society, the person, the tendencies. What is this going to lead to? So it's not a simple black and white hukum shari, black and white, this is the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but rather particularly when it comes to matters of ijtihad and independent legal reasoning of the ulama, they need to be able to be people of basira who are able actually to see what are going to be the effects of this particular hukum, this ruling within society. And so that's where you need to have a person of ilm, not only a ilm of sharia, but also a ilm of the waqi'. The waqi' meaning our current situation, our current context, our environment. And so therefore, to get one particular ruling and apply it in a totally different society or different area where it is a matter of ijtihad, there's no clear-cut hukum shari on it, غير قابل للتأويل, which is unable to accept interpretation. If there's no clear nas in the sharia, that cannot be interpreted any other way. It's an explicit. If it's something that's explicitly ruled, then there's no room for ijtihad. But if there's an implicit ruling, if it's able to be interpreted in various ways, then this is where we say that there is scope for difference of opinion, and particularly in different contexts and situations. So, we said the second way in which we can increase the mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam after the first, which was to actually make mention of him on our tongue often, is in any situation where an action is demanded from us, or a statement is demanded from us, meaning if you have to speak, or you have to actually do something, or maybe not do something, because sometimes your lack of action is inaction, and your lack of speech is speech, and sometimes your lack of speech is in fact more effective than your speech. Some people, they'll talk, but no benefit. Another person says one word. Ooh, everyone's listening. They said one word. This other guy speaking for 10, 15 minutes. Why? Because the first one is speaking from his hawa. He's speaking from his ego. And the second is speaking from his qalb. He's speaking from his pure heart, sincere for Allah. First guy wants people to clap, wants people to point at him, wants people to acknowledge him. The second person doesn't seek anything from anyone, but rather does it for the sake of Allah. So when he sees that there is benefit in his speaking, he'll speak. But when he sees that there's more benefit in his silence, he'll be silent. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reported by some of the Sahaba that when he used to recite Al-Fatiha, they said he used to stop at the end of each ayah. He didn't recite it all together, boom, 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 boom. No, he used to stop at each ayah. And one of the wisdoms of this is it gives the mustami', the one who's listening to the tilawah, a moment to contemplate. Moment to contemplate. So when you listen to the ayah, and then there's a few seconds silence. Ya salam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamd. What is Alhamd? Rabb. Who is Rabb? Al-Alameen. Everything that Allah Ta'ala has created. Gives you 2-3 seconds to reflect on the ayah. And then the next ayah. And then the next ayah. So, the second method in which we can increase mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to ask ourselves, what would he have done if he was in this situation? What would he have said? Would he have remained silent? What would he have done? And what would he have refrained from doing in this particular situation? The third way is to literally read the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To pick up a book of hadith. We pick up Al-Mushaf, Al-Quran, Kalam Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's also haqq. There's also a right towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that we beautify our tongues. As we beautify our tongues with the recitation of Kalam Allah, we can also beautify our tongues with the recitation of Kalam Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so we pick up any book of hadith of the Arba'een of Imam al-Nawawi, Riyadh al-Salihin, Kitab al-Adhkar, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, the Sunan, Nasa'i, Abu Dawood, to read the hadith for tabarruk, in order to seek blessing, that your tongue is now pronouncing those same words that your beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also used to pronounce. You're not reading the hadith to extract the hukum of sharia and to make ijtihad, because we don't have the prerequisites of ijtihad. But we're reciting these hadith in order to adorn our tongues and to beautify our sense of hearing and to immerse our hearts in this whole environment of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So to make much reading and recitation of kalam and the speech of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his ahadith. The fourth is to ensure that we have a regular recourse to some type of text or material on the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We read up upon his life, on his biography, fiqh al-seerah of Sheikh Muhammad Sa'id Ramadan al-Buti fiqh al-seerah, or for instance the Al-Shifa Qadi Iyad, or in English the book of seerah by Ali Abu Hassan Ali al-Nadawi, or some of the other known and recognized books of Sirah that have been translated, like the Sirah of Ibn Hisham, or the Sirah of Ibn Kathir also was translated into English. So we pick up a good, known, recognized book of Sirah, and we start to go through it. If you don't have the time to read it, then we're now the techno age, so get an audio book. You've got no excuse, and plug it into your ears, and away you go. You're there riding your bicycle on a Sunday morning, or in the train, commuting, or doing something else, or walking. You got those things plugged in your ear, and away you go. You're listening to the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an hour a day, mashallah. In 1 month, it's 30 hours. 30 hours of Seerah, you'll finish a whole book, easy, right? So to plan it, because the people of business, of dunya, tijara, that's how they do it. They read up books on management, they read up books on leadership, they read up books on personal development, read books on marketing. How? They got no time to sit there reading, so they just put on audio books, they download it, they purchase it, and away they go. So we do the same thing with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life, and try and ensure that we're trying to listen to it. In fact, there's a good audio recording of Martin Ling's Seerah, if you can get it. Nice recording there, audio recording. So to listen to his Seerah, to read his Seerah, the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's the fourth. The fifth is a bit of a challenge. And that is to challenge yourself to write something with regard to your expression of love towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Whether it's poetry or a letter, write a letter. Dear Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Assalamu alaikum. Address your Habib, your beloved. Write him a letter. Back in school, they used to get us to write letters and then put them in these time capsules and bury it in the earth. I don't know where it is now, but you write these letters and you address it to someone. Some people who are diagnosed with cancer, they got young kids. They'll write a letter. They write a letter to their child, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, or whatever. They've only been given another 6 months or so to live. So they write a letter to their loved ones. So who do you love more? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, more than yourself, more than your parents, more than your children. So we're all sick. We all got cancer. We all got some type of cancer. Some people got cancer in their head. Some people got cancer in their heart. Some people got cancer in their ears. We're all cancerous. We all got diseases. We're just different people diseased in different ways. So since we're all diseased and all sick, then let's write a letter to the doctor, to the tabib. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, tibbul qulubi wa dawaiha, is certainly the medicine of the heart and its treatment. And so write a letter to him. If not, then write some poetry. If you're the romantic type, if you used to write poetry to your fiance, your wife when you first got married, hopefully not before then. Or she used to write letters to you, or poetry to you, and write some poetry to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Madah, praise, and expressing your great love, as the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum did, and as a great ulama used to do after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as Al-Abbas himself did in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he sought permission on the way back from Ghazwat Tabuk. He sought permission, Sayyidina Abbas, to praise Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Qul la yufqidillahu fad." He says, recite, O Al-Abbas, and may your teeth never fall out of your mouth. And so he continued until his later years with beautiful, sparkling white teeth. None of them fell, all healthy. No Colgate toothpaste, no fluoride, none of this sort of stuff. But the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the greatest oral hygiene for the Sahaba. And he says regarding the siwak, his own sunnah and the sunnah of the Anbiya and the Prophets, he says, as-siwak matharatun lil-fam. It says the toothbrush, the siwak made from the arak tree, is cleansing with regard to the mouth. وَمَرْضَاتٌ لِلرَّبِّ, and it's pleasing to Allah. وَمَطْرَدَةٌ لِلشَّيْطَانِ, and it repels shaitan. These days you can get insect repellent. You spray it all over you. So there's funny ingredients in it. Or if you're more naturally inclined, you get the candles, are there? Citronella candles, those yellow ones. Insect repellent. But there's also shaitan repellent. And shaitan repellent is the siwak. Also dhikrullah is shaitan repellent. Whenever you the dhikr of Allah, it repels shaitan. So these are the 5 ways that perhaps we can make much mention of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam in our lives. And the salah upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we send 1 salah upon him, Allah ta'ala sends 10 salah upon us. We send 10 salah upon Rasulullah, Allah sends 100 salah upon us. So that rahmah that descends upon us, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granting us rahmah, 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 rahmah. Through our salah upon Rasulullah, Allah yarhamna. Allah has mercy upon us. And so we should increase in that. And in fact, Imam al-Shafi'i, his madhab is that a salah is not valid. Our 5 obligatory salawat is not valid unless you send salah upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So if you do at-tahiyyat, al-mubarakat, salawat al-tayyibat lillah, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This assalamu alayka أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته here is an integral part of the salah. In the final tashahhud, if a person doesn't say this tahiyyat, then the salah is missing. The salah is not full, it's not complete, invalid. And so there must be this salam. And this form of salam is what we call al-khitab. It is an address to al-hadir, to someone who is present. When I say, Assalamu alayka ya Hilal, Assalamu alayka. Where's Hilal? Next door? In Dar Aisha? No, he's here in Dar Abbas, Musalla. He's nowhere else. On Stacey Street? No. He's inside the Musalla. Why? Because I said, Assalamu alayka with a kaf. If I said, Assalamu alayhi with a ha, Hilal can be in America, he can be in Stacey Street, he can be next door, he can be anywhere, halfway across the world for all I care. He's absent. But as soon as I say, Assalamu alayka, Assalamu alaykum, then I'm referring to someone who's right in front of me. And so if you do not believe that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is right in front of you, particularly in your salah, Assalamu alayka, ayyuhan nabiyyu, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, salam upon you, O Nabi, O Prophet, and rahmah of Allah, and the barakat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I don't know where you're going. I don't know which way you're headed. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is addressed with kaf al-khitab, the hadir, the one who is there, and who is present. And so in our salah, we say this, and not only this, but we also follow this up after the tashahhud with Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, being the bare minimum according to the Shafi'i madhab of salah upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam in the jalsat al-tashahhud al-akhir, in the last sitting for tashahhud, without which our salah will not be valid. So there must be assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, and there must be bare minimum. Allah was called as-salat al-Ibrahimiyya, which is the full one, but the bare minimum according to Imam Shafi'i, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, salah sahiha, it's valid. But if there's no Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, salah afwan, invalid. So these two here show your connection to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated the salah to him by sending salah from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Therefore, the gate to Allah, al-bab ila Allah, wa Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Al-hadith, al-bakhilu man dhukirtu indahu فلم يصلي عليه. So the name of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned in your presence, and you don't send salah upon him. You don't say Allahumma salli alayhi wa ala alihi. Once we're in a da'wah trip just outside of Tarim in Sayun, and we went with one of our teachers, and we were going through some material, some adab, the adab of majalis al-ilm, the adab of the circles of knowledge. And we read these adab before starting one of these classes, either in fiqh or in some other subject, during this couple of days of da'wah trip in the masjid. And so when we read these adab, they said, when you hear the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should say, Jalla Jalaluhu, Jalla Jalaluhu, subhanahu wa ta'ala, tabaraka wa ta'ala. Some expressions, some statements that is going to express your great reverence and magnification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, whenever we would come across an ayah in the Quran that would be read during that particular circle of knowledge, where the speaker or the reader will say, Qala Allah, then you recite the ayah. As soon as it says, Qala Allah, everyone, Jalla Jalaluhu. Everyone says in the halaqah, Jalla Jalaluhu. And then he continues with the ayah. And then the next adab was when you hear the name of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you say, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhi wa ala ahli. And so from that point on, whenever we come to a text that says, Qala Rasulullah, everyone says, after the one that's reading the text says, Qala Rasulullah, you hear everyone, Allahumma salli wa sallim alayhi wa ala ahli. Stops. This is how it is. This is the ta'zeem, this is the reverence, this is the respect that we give to Allah, to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But they don't stop there. The next of the adab, this thing we're missing. The next of the adab is that when you hear the name of a alim, of a shaykh, of a scholar, say, Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him. So when you hear, قال Imam Ghazali, or قال Imam Nawawi, or قال this, or قال that, some scholar said, or this scholar that said, after he mentions the name of the scholar, before he mentions his quote, you hear everyone, Rahimahullah, 10, 15, 20 people in the halaqah, and say, may Allah have mercy upon him. But they don't stop there. They said, whenever you hear the mention of the name of one of the Sahaba, or a group of them, if it's one of them, say, Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So you say, An Abi Hurayrata, Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Or two Sahaba or more, or a group of Sahaba, Radiyallahu anhum. Radiyallahu, subhanallah. And in that way, the person who's sitting there in the halaqah is no longer listening and about to fall asleep. Many of our classes, we're just listening, about to fall asleep, until someone, Iqama, Iqama. Sometimes the khutbahs are like this. You only wake up, قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت. Wait, you look, everyone's up. Oh, what happened? Where you missed the whole khutbah. Oh, you remember? Alhamdulillah is the first thing the khatib says. And then, إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون واذكروا الله يذكركم وأقيموا الصلاة. Oh, Allah Akbar. And someone taps you on the shoulder. I don't know, is the problem with the khatib or is the problem with the one who's being spoken to? Maybe both. Maybe one of them. There's a problem somewhere. There's a problem somewhere. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ta'zeem of the sha'a'ir and the great public symbols of Islam. No one should sleep in the khutbah. No matter how bad the khatib is, no matter how boring the khutbah is, this is the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the one that legislated this khutbah. And so therefore, we should ensure that we are totally alert during the khutbah. Where were we? With regard to the salah upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yes, whenever we hear his name mentioned, then we say, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhi wa ala ahli. Someone says, oh, but I don't have time. You don't have time. You're mind, you're tired. Right? You're not a generous person, you're saying, oh, but I give sadaqah, mashallah. Open Rahma Aged Care, I gave $500,000. It doesn't make a difference. If you don't have 2 seconds to say Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak alayhi wa ala alihi, whenever you hear the name mentioned Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, okay, how much you giving your open check, blank check? Give it to somewhere else, whatever you spend, because there's going to be no blessing coming from that if there's no connection to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So that's the first hadith. The next hadith, الحديث العاشر, the 10th hadith. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. No one said anything. We said قال رسول الله اللهم صل وسلم عليه وعلى آله. What do you do? You're all going to sleep. What's going on? Except what's your name, brother? Abdul Karim. He just came. He's huffing and puffing. MashaAllah. He's energetic. He's the only one that said. Everyone else is asleep. What's wrong with you? قال رسول الله. يا سلام. That's the adab. التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. حديث صحيح رواه الحاكم. التاجر الأمين. التاجر is the merchant, businessman. Al-Amin is the one who is trustworthy. As-Saduq, the honest and the truthful one. Al-Muslim is the Muslim. Ma'a shuhada, he is with the martyrs. Yawm al-Qiyamah, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of rising. Who is the tajir, and what type of tajir, what type of merchant or business person are we talking about? So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says that a merchant who is truthful, who is honest in his dealings, and who is Muslim, then he will be with the shuhada yawm al-qiyamah, the highest of the stations. A person who used to go out, buy and sell and make money and involved in the dunya is with who? With those shuhada that went out and fought fi sabilillah and spent their wealth and spent their lives for the kalima of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be at the forefront of the highest. Who's with them? The people that went after their dollars and cents. The people of the dunya. If they were people of the dunya according to these particular attributes. At-tajirul amin. When you're in business, Shaitan likes to come and play around with your head. Because when you're in business, usually you're in business in a place where there is little dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there's dhikr of exchange rates, and there's dhikr of share prices, and there's dhikr of prices of, what do you call those, superannuation units and investment schemes, and there's dhikr of the price of commodities, and there's dhikr of the price of these particular products, and the tax rates and interest rates and this rates and that rate. Oh, prices of the dunya, values that the people of the dunya have assigned and respect. Importing, exporting, opening up shop, trading hours, rules, regulations, laws, accounting, audit, GST, BAS. They were BAS, business activity statement. When the Lebanese say BAS, they say stop, BAS. But every 3 months it comes around, isn't it? Every 3 months, and we keep running. BAS, stop, no more BAS. So when you're a person that's in tijara, you're in trade, you're buying, you're selling, you're working, then your environment is an environment of dunya. If you were to sit with a group of taxi drivers, you know what they're going to be speaking about? Whilst they're there on the rank, whilst they're at their homes eating their dinner, whilst they're visiting one another, you know what they speak about? I heard them. You know what they speak about? They speak about their jobs. He took a long job, he took a short job. This guy was drunk, he came in. This guy didn't pay him up. They speak about their work. You know what carpenters speak about when they get together? They speak about their work. You know what engineers they speak about? Same thing. People that come from one particular industry, whenever they meet up, that's the thing that they have in common. So they'll chat about that. And the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they come together, what do they speak about? They speak about Allah. They speak about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So if you're in business, then to be reminded of Allah and to remind others of Allah is, in many cases, an abnormality. But in fact, it's the norm. But in many cases, it's an abnormality because you're going against the fashion, going against the standard, you're going against the way of what everyone else is doing. So to be in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during that time in which you are in business and in trade and dunya, then this is a manqaba, this is something that is worth boasting about. At-tajir al-ameen, the honest businessman. How many shonky businessmen are there? How many businessmen are there that the Australian, what do you call, Securities and Investment Commission goes after and charges, you know, to catch doing shonky business? Whether it's some pyramid scheme or some other type of kidding on people and preying on the elderly in terms of various offers that they'll give to them. There's many shonky business people around, Muslim and non-Muslim. They're all over the place. So nothing to do with deen. It's a lack of muraqabah. It's a lack of observance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a person's faith, in a person's life, that will get them to be shonky in their business. So to be with the shuhada on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the first thing is that you need to be honest in your dealings. Tajib and ameen. And being honest in your dealings means, you know, if there's actually if there's a fault, if there's something wrong with your product, Sharia actually tells you, you have to tell the person. If it is a fault that is going to decrease the value of that particular item. If it's something that wouldn't decrease the value of that item ordinarily, it's nothing to be worried about. But if it's something where if you had an item, if you had a car, if you had a computer, if you had a shirt that was 100% in perfect form, and then the thing that you were selling, there was a loose string, or there was a rip, or there was some key that didn't work on the keyboard, for instance, and you knew that. If you were to compare those two items, one would be 10% less value on the market. Then it becomes necessary, obligatory, wajib upon you to point out to Bob and to John who come in to purchase from you, say, look, this key, the K key on the keyboard, so you press it 10 times, 9 out of 10 times it works. But 1 time out of 10 it doesn't work. You have to say that. You have to say that. It's part of your sidq, it's part of your honesty. And if you don't, then you have to look for another tent on Yawm al-Qiyamah, because it's not going to be the one under the shade of Allah Ta'ala's throne. Because in another hadith, it said that the person of these particular awsaf, these particular qualities, will be under the shade of Allah Ta'ala's throne. So to be honest in your dealings, and being honest in your dealings means that you also not overprice something. You know, you're only going to sell something at a price where you believe you're going to earn some type of gain, you're going to earn some type of profit. So if you're selling an item, you only sell an item for a particular price if you feel that that price is worth more than the item. And if you're going to go out and purchase an item, you're going to only purchase an item where you feel that what you have paid is hopefully less than what the item is really worth. Right? And this is tijara. This is buying and selling. This is how the dunya works. And this is where you have the supply and demand come together and trying to determine those prices in the marketplace. So you as a seller are only going to sell a product if you feel that what you're going to get from selling that product is more than what the product is worth. And you know, you feel that you've got a good buy, you go and shop, you compare prices, and you think, this price is a really good price. I mean, I could have paid another 10% more, but here I'll pay 10% less. And here I'll pay 10% less, so that means what I'm going to purchase, what I'm going to give up in terms of the price is worth less than this actual item, So therefore there needs to be honesty. There needs to be that type of what we call mutual understanding and agreement. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, al-bay'u an taradin, selling, but buying and selling transactions occur if both parties mutually agree. So if you agree that you're going to sell this product at $100 and the purchaser agrees that they're going to buy the product at $100, then you've got taradi. you have got agreement. Since you've got agreement, everyone's happy. But if someone is not happy, if someone is not happy with the price, then the purchase transaction is not going to continue. So therefore, you should try not be exorbitant, not be extreme in the prices that you set. There are some places I walk into, every single time I walk into, it says 50% off. Sale. We've got a sale throughout the year, 50% off. So what are your normal prices like? What are your normal prices like with 50% off? Now, every single time. So when you set your prices, set them at reasonable prices. And when you set them at reasonable prices, every now and again, run a discount, run a sale, not a problem. But to set such a high price that you have to run a discount throughout the whole year, and the whole year you've got a season sale, at some places, doesn't make sense. Then where's the honesty, right? So these are some things that we need to also take into account. And when you're sitting there bargaining, if you are a customer, if you're going there to purchase, don't bargain the daylights out of the the owner, right? Particularly if you know they're working hard and they're making a bit of a margin. And unfortunately, sometimes Muslims buying off Muslims, they want to milk them dry. Milk them dry. Fi sabilillah, fi sabilillah. I've got children as well. I've got to feed my children. I've got mortgages. I've got rent to pay and expenses. I've got fi sabilillah as well. Rather than me giving you the extra $10 discount, give me the $10 discount. I'm more worthy. This is the case. There were some of our mashayikh that used to tell us. That when he goes to the souk to buy something, his babat or his masad, his daqiq, his bread or his rice or flour, he sees a few different people selling the same thing. He says, so many people buying at this guy, so many people this guy, so many people this guy. He says, hardly anyone that one. He says he goes to the one that's not selling to anyone. Miskin, poor guy, no one wants to buy from him. He goes and he makes intention of sadaqah makhfiyah, of a hidden sadaqah. His intention is sadaqah with this person, but in the disguise of a purchase transaction. Look at the intention here. He's not going around looking for the cheapest price. He's looking, where can he do sadaqah? Hidden sadaqah, such that no one knows. Even the poor guy that's selling the potatoes and onions, barely making a living, he doesn't even know it's sadaqah. This is the sadaqah that a person's, what we call a person's left hand doesn't know what the right hand gave. This is the hidden sadaqah. But there's some people that not only do they want you to know the sadaqah that they're giving, but they want the whole world to know the sadaqah that they're giving. They want the whole world to know the sadaqah that they're giving. Marad, it's a disease. We need to be treated. But the more we give little bits on a regular basis in a hidden manner, then the easier it will be for us, our sadaqah and our charity, in a way that we don't seek any recognition or acknowledgement from anyone. So to be a person who is trustworthy, so if you say that this particular product has certain features and certain qualities, then they better live up to those features and those qualities. And if you enter into certain agreements, then you should be sure to fulfill those covenants. So this is a sure way for a person who is involved in earning a living, buying, selling, working out there, as long as they have honesty, as long as they're trustworthy, as long as they're a person of Islam and Iman, then they can be with the Shahada Yawm al-Qiyamah. And really, when you're out there and you're buying, you're selling, and you're making a living, and you're in fact fulfilling a service for people. People need bread, people need milk, people need cars, people need clothes. So when you're out there, if you are in the manufacturing industry or in the retail industry, do not allow your sole intention to be to earn money, to amass wealth. But have the niyyah, the intention to be in khidmah. Oh, what do you mean? How can I be in khidmah of people? Yeah. You opened up a shop selling clothes. You opened up a shop selling bread and butter and milk or cars, whatever else it is. Intend to be in khidmah. That this car that you're selling, hopefully not a lemon, right? But a good car in good condition, that's not beautifully polished on the outside, but inside, Allah knows what's in there. Intend that this be a car, that the person that's going to purchase it, they're inshallah going to take it from their home to their work in order to earn halal living, then from work to the masjid to come and to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to take their children to madrasa, to take their children to hifz al-Quran. For that, make intention that this car is going to be used for ilm, for da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it's going to travel the country. It's going to travel all around Australia, talking to people about Islam and showing people true akhlaq. I say, which one of our used car dealers, Muslim car dealers, made intention with the car, just one car that he sells, that this car is, I sell it with the intention that it be the da'i to Allah, the car mobile, da'wah mobile to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just make that intention. Oh, what use is it? What use to you? Because you've got no intentions. If you've got no intentions, there's no use of you. You go look for some other job, but don't want you there. We need used car salesmen that people have intentions. When they sell their cars, they sell their car with intention. And if some disobedient person came, and you know this person is some person that plays around, then make intention that inshallah this particular car will only be used for khair. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, his sword Dhul Fiqar, he says, this is the sword Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave me. It doesn't strike except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you used car salesman or computer salesman or internet salesman or whatever telecommunication, whenever you sell a contract, you sell a service, or you sell a garment, make intention that the person you're selling to, Muslim or Kafir, that they only use it for something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. And then look at the difference that we're going to have in society. If these are our tujjar, these are the people running our shopping centers, these are the people running our business villages, then mashallah, this place is going to be a much better place. التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. We'll stop here inshallah. 2 hadith inshallah. The first hadith was البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. And the second, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. We'll repeat them again because we have to memorize this hadith. There's no way out. You're here, you're sitting here after this. That's why they're short. They're collected short hadith. Otherwise, they've got you long hadith, 2-3 pages long. But these are all short hadith in order that they be memorized. The first, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. هلال. البخيل أيوة من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. What does it mean? What does it mean? أيوة. What does it? اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد. What does it mean? What does the hadith mean? البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. See, even these guys are here from the beginning of the class, they're not even speaking up. You're right, you came a little later on.
One who is tight, one who does not send salawat on me, peace and blessing.
اللهم صل وسلم عليه وعلى آله. تمام. البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. محمد يلا. أيوة. البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. Again, all together. البخيل من ذكرت عنده فلم يصلي عليه. أيوة. تمام. And the next hadith قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم. التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم. 4 easy. Count them. التاجر الأمين الصدوق. الصدوق means the very, 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 very truthful one. Not just truthful, very truthful, emphatic form. التاجر الأمين الصدوق. Last one's easy. المسلم. Where is he? مع من? مع الشهداء. وين؟ يوم القيامة. يلا. التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. Again, التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. Yes. أيوة، التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم. Last one, easy one. We're all Muslim. مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. تمام هلال. التاجر الأمين. That's number 4. التاجر الأمين الصدوق. What's a صدوق mean? Very, very honest, yeah. المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. One more. من؟ Voluntary. أيوة.
التاجر الأمين
لا، التاجر الأمين الصدوق المسلم مع الشهداء يوم القيامة. And those that are following us next door, inshallah, they also repeat. And so with that, inshallah, we beautify our tongues and our ears and our hearts with the kalam of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. بسر الفاتحة على حضرة النبي. اللهم صل وسلم. آمين. Those learn Arabic at the same time.